Welcome to the SBI Podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome, SBI listeners, readers, and viewers. My name is Greg Alexander, and I am the CEO of SBI, a management consulting company specializing in sales and marketing dedicated to helping you make your number. This is the weekly SBI podcast, and its purpose is to help you make your number by getting your peers to share with you how they make theirs. Today's guest is Liri Hanover, and she is the CFO of Netafim, the global leader in mechanized drip irrigation systems. Netafim was founded in 1965, does business in 110 countries, and they pioneered the drip revolution, which we'll get into in a moment. And they provide solutions to the agricultural, landscaping, and mining industries. Liri, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right now, our audience, mostly CEOs, sales leaders, and marketing leaders, are asking, why did Greg have a CFO on the show? So let me take a brief moment to set this up. This show is about product, profitability, and pricing. In order to make your number consistently, your products need to be priced correctly. And this requires a deep understanding of product profitability. And this is why I asked Liri to be on the show today. She's a CFO and spends her time working on these issues. She will help us think through this. As always, we're going to use SBI's revenue growth methodology to guide our conversation today, specifically pages 84 and 85 and 89 and 90. If you want to follow along at home, get a copy of it at salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report. Okay, Liri, I would like to start our conversation by asking you to help our audience better understand their cost structure. So, for example, how do you determine your costs to build your product?
First of all, building the product can be a very simple exercise or it can be somewhat more complex. So let's go with complexity because it's probably more relevant to your audience. It actually begins with the plant, with the materials, with the organizations that are supporting the procurement of those materials, the labor that's used to turn it into the product you want, to package it, put it on the truck, and ship it. There's also the cost associated with the technical support that's used to drive the manufacturing processes, and there can also be technology that's acquired from other sources that's embedded in that product, and all of these together form the lion's share of the cost to just build the product.
Okay. And is there any type of costing methodology used, like a, activity-based costing or something along those lines?
There are companies that use activity-based costing. There are companies that use standard costing. It really depends on the nature of the product that's being produced. In some cases, it's pertinent. In some cases, it's not. For example, if you have a make-to-order type of manufacturing, it's very difficult to do activity-based costing. If it's more process-oriented, it's easier.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that was a good explanation as to how you factor in all the costs associated with building the product. Let's talk about the cost to market the product. So how do you calculate those costs?
Well, to market the specific product, we're going to look at ATL, BTL, conferences, special programs that are done to support the brand, to the segment that this product is being driven towards. And in general, we will also allocate a cost of the marketing department to the effort to market any given product.
Okay. So there is an allocation that is a factor of marketing labor cost?
There has to be one, yes.
Yeah. Okay, very good. I think sometimes people forget to do that, so that's a good piece of advice there. Okay, let's keep going on this continuum. How about the cost to sell the product? How do you calculate that?
Well, this is more of an economic view of the cost to sell. Clearly, the sales force, sales management, and the related overhead costs of the sales structure are involved. If you're working with a distribution network, then we're going to also consider discounts, rebates as part of the cost of selling. We're going to look at what it means to make our product available? How much inventory am I carrying? Where is it being located? What is the cost of financing that inventory? What is the cost of financing the customer if that is a key differentiator in selling our product? And then we're going to also look around and see if there are any ancillary costs that come into play in order to help the sales force close the sale or acquire the customer. Because as you know, when you're trying to acquire a customer, there are additional costs that are involved that are not normal with regular sales of a product once it has been launched.
Yep. So that was a great answer, and you pointed out a few things there that I think many of the members of our audience don't factor in when they're calculating their cost to sell, or what we call a customer acquisition cost. For example, discounts need to be factored in, rebates need to be factored in, inventory carry. The last one you mentioned, which is if you're financing the product for your customers, the cost of that financing is pretty important. So for the audience, to pay attention to this part of the conversation, because very often I don't think you truly understand the fully burdened cost of selling a product. And later on in the show, when we talk about how that factors into determining the appropriate price of a product, if you don't do that correctly, it's going to be costly for you. Okay, let's move to the next item. How about calculating the cost to install the product?
This is comparatively easier. Typically, there's a dedicated staff that's responsible for the installation, or you outsource it so you can clearly measure that cost. But there are some associated costs with that, and that is, again, what are the materials or that's required for the installation team, or the distances that they need to travel in order to perform the installation? Is there a meaning to the timing of that installation, the scheduling of that installation? How much capacity do I have to build in that force? And am I maximizing its utilization at all times, or do I have downtime that I have to include in the cost?
Okay, very good. And then lastly, after the sale is made and the product is installed, there's post-sale support, customer service, technical support, what have you. And how do you calculate the cost of that?
Again, if you have dedicated teams for that, you can identify the specific cost of that group, and based on their time charts allocated per product. But there are also other costs that don't appear in that line item of the P&L as you would, and come from a more economic view of the cost. And that is the cost of warranty, the cost of the parts and their availability, the cost of moving those parts, the cost of keeping a customer happy. In some cases, that goes far and beyond the normal warranty, and that is also considered as a cost, what I have to give to the customer in order to retain the customer. And we put that all in the cost of support.
Okay, very good. All right, so we just did...
One more thing, Greg, if I can just interject here, and that is we've gone through some very specific aspects of the process, but there's that whole back office, which is supporting all of these processes through handling the orders, through paying the salaries, through collecting the money, through handling the phone calls when the customers come in. And that, too, has to be allocated to the cost of the product.
Yeah, very good. You're right. I had forgot to include that, and those costs can be rather large, and obviously those are critical business functions, so they have to be calculated in. Okay, let's just do a quick recap here. So today's show is about product profitability and pricing. And we're starting off by having a conversation with Liri, who's a CFO and an expert in this area. We were trying to understand, some concepts around understanding the cost of a product. So we talked about the cost to build a product, to market a product, to sell a product, and Liri did an excellent job of expanding our definition there, to install the product, to support the product, and added some economic factors there, such as cost of warranties, parts, and the cost of keeping customers happy. Without happy customers, we can't sell the product. And then she added another dimension to it, which I think was a great add, which is understanding the back office cost and how to allocate that down to the individual product line so you can get an accurate representation of product profitability by understanding your full cost. All right, we're going to take a quick break. But when Liri and I come back, we're going to discuss how to use this cost information to better determine pricing. So stick around and come after the break. You are watching SBI TV. This is a monthly web TV show featuring guests just like you, executives trying to grow their revenues. Each month, you can peek behind the scenes and watch your peers discuss their strategies for how they make their numbers. You are not going to want to miss this. Okay, welcome back. My name is Greg Alexander, and I am the CEO of SBI, and my guest today is Liri Hanover, the CFO of NetFM. Today we are discussing product profitability and pricing, and we are using SBI's revenue growth methodology to do it, specifically pages 84 and 85 and pages 89 and 90. If you still don't have a copy of this, go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report. Before the break, Liri shared with us how she calculates her cost to build, market, sell, install, and support the company's products. She also added the back office cost into that equation, which are key inputs into the pricing strategy. During this segment, we're going to shift the conversation to pricing, the other side of this equation, so to speak. So Liri, let me pull you back into the conversation and ask you some high-level questions, and please address these the way you address the questions in the first segment, which is if you have something to add, please speak up. How do you determine what price the market will pay for a product?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky question. Our products in particular have been around for a number of years, and there's a developed market, so it's a little bit different than if you're bringing a new product into a market. But basically, it has to be based on the value that's perceived by the customer, assuming that you have properly targeted the customer. And I presume that most companies are looking to offer a high value add, high quality product to their customer. So you would look to see what is the price that the customer can and should pay to realize that value and feel good about it, while at the same time understanding the environment around, and of course paying attention to whether the price that you think the market will pay is sufficient to earn a required return or profit on the development or manufacture or sale of that product.
Yeah. So price as a factor of customer value is a concept I think that's well understood. But you're right, especially in mature markets, calculating the customer value and then figuring out what percentage of that value you can capture in the form of a price is a tricky thing to do. And I don't think there's one way to do it because it's highly dependent upon the industry and the types of products and who you're selling them to. But do you have any basics maybe on how to figure out the value that your product creates for the customers and therefore what percentage of that you can capture in your price?
Well, there's a couple of ways that you could look at it. You could look at it from a very technical perspective and say, okay, I want to earn a certain minimum gross profit or gross margin, meaning the price, the net price that I sell it at versus the cost to manufacture and ship it. That's one way. The other way is to look if it is a product that exists in the market, what has been the discount history. If that discounting has been fairly stable, then chances are you could move the bar up. And until such point as you found that you were giving a higher level of discounting coming back to the original price. And the third way it could be to say if I offered an alternative product in the market that was sort of a step down, could I take my first product and offer it at a higher premium and still make certain sales by having this, let's say, second tier product which would establish distinct qualities of the first one versus the second and enable me to see how high I could push the price bar.
All great pieces of advice, and that, that's a lead into my third question in this segment, which is this concept of good, better, best pricing, which is the idea of submitting alternatives to the customer, as you just mentioned, and that helps the customer dimensionalize in their own mind, the different points on the value chain, if you will, or the different points on the value scale is probably better said. So do you use some version of good, better, best pricing? And if so, what's your approach?
I think that in some of our markets we are able to use good, better, and best pricing. Other markets are regulated, so that's not available. But I think that in terms of good pricing, as everyone knows, when you're in a highly competitive situation and there's a risk of losing a key customer, then you can offer good pricing. You can bundle other elements in your product basket to offer this deal to the customer and differentiate it from the competitor. As we spoke about earlier with the better pricing, by setting up two products in a given category and offering the second level option, which would still, let's say, be above the competitor's price because presumably the product that your audience is offering is a better product and has better value to the customer. And if you're in a situation, the ideal situation, where you have a very high market share, you have fantastic brand recognition and loyal customers, you can obviously offer the top-of-the-line product at the best premium price.
Mm-hmm. You know, as I understand your company, you pioneered this technology and therefore created the market, which means you're the market leader in what it is that you do. And I'm imagining, given the success that you've had, that's attracted some competition. So how do you determine, what the competition charges, and is there, pricing transparency in your industry, or is this a difficult thing to figure out?
In most markets, it's not that difficult to get the published price lists of competitors, but a lot of the information that is received comes from the very close relationships that the company has developed with its customers and distributors, who are open and share information, which of course I raise an eyebrow at because that information needs to be validated. Otherwise, you're likely to find yourself in a price war, which doesn't benefit anyone. So we have a combination of hard information as well as good client relationships that share that information with us.
Yeah, okay, very good. All right, my last question in this segment, which we talked about briefly in a previous answer, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper, and this is concept of price bundling. And price bundling is a concept of increasing the value proposition you present to a customer by bundling a set of products and services in such a way that the package is worth more than each individual part. So does your company deploy that method? And if so, has it worked for you? What are your thoughts on price bundling?
Well, as a consumer, I think we all prefer to have a one-stop shop with a reliable provider, someone who we know that we can count on, that will give us the advice as to how to best utilize the product and derive the greatest value. And I think the company has done that for many years. It has a very, very broad product portfolio and can provide a solution, which is the commercial name for bundling, to the customer, and the customer knows that they are in good hands. And that is certainly worth a lot, particularly when you're talking about agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I would share a story with the audience myself. We are in the process of building what we call an executive briefing center, which is a physical building where our clients can come to us and in one meeting get a chance to meet all of our experts. It's a more efficient way of doing what we do. And so therefore I'm hiring contractors and architects and design firms, et cetera. And I recently made a decision to hire the leader in this one particular area for that reason. One-stop shopping was just a lot easier for me, and it was an effective way for them to price their solution. So I think it's something that we can all take a look at. Speaking directly to the audience, think about your product portfolio. If it's broad, are there ways to increase the value proposition by combining certain products into solutions and presenting that one-stop shopping option to the customers? All right, listen up, sales and marketing leaders. I'm speaking to you directly right now. If you don't know the answers to the questions that Liri and I just went through, Get out of your chair, walk down the office, and go sit down with your CFO ASAP to try to figure this out. Pricing can make or break your year, so it's that important. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Laurie and I are going to summarize this into an action plan that you can implement immediately. So stick around after the break.
Each day, you receive hundreds of emails, tons of text messages, countless telephone calls, and sit in too many meetings. How do you find ideas to make the number with all this noise? The SBI blog filters all this nonsense for you and presents only first-rate ideas to make the number. Simplify your life. Subscribe to one blog and read the best content. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back. My name is Greg Alexander, and I'm the CEO of SBI. My guest today is Liri Hanover, the CFO of Netafim. Today we are discussing product profitability and pricing, and we're using pages 84 and 85 and 89 and 90 of SBI's revenue growth methodology. In segment 1 of this show, we discussed calculating the cost to build, market, sell, install, and support your products. In segment 2, we spoke about pricing, specifically determining the price point for your products relative to the alternatives. This is our last segment of this show, segment 3, so let's offer the audience some advice on how to use what they learned today. So Laurie, if I could ask you, try and summarize what we discussed today into 3 actions an audience member can take immediately to improve pricing and profitability.
Okay, that's challenging, but we'll try. First of all, I would suggest that they have a full understanding of what the product you're selling really costs. And I'm talking that's the economic cost, which goes far beyond the P&L line item called cost of goods sold or the cost to manufacture that product. You have to have a good appreciation of that. Second of all, once you have that understanding, you will probably understand why CFOs were always clamoring for higher and higher gross profit margins. It's because we understand that we need to cover a lot more costs than appear in the standard cost that you will see when you see the product SKU in your book. And we want to be sure that there's a profit at the end of the day. Finally, I think that while every organization needs to focus on efficiencies and reducing costs, I think that the sales and marketing teams can be creative and even aggressive in their pricing after determining what the right target market is, the right target audience, and maximizing the value of what they're offering to that audience such that they cover those extensive list of costs and deliver a good profit for the organization.
Excellent takeaway value. I will tell you, I learned something today. I had lost track of economic cost versus standard cost. I don't know why, but it's obviously a very sound concept and it's a necessity. And for some reason, I wasn't focused on that as much as I needed to be. So great piece of advice for the audience. I hope everybody's paying attention. Let me offer the audience my 2 cents. So you, CEOs, sales and marketing leaders, you cannot make your number if your products are not priced correctly. It's that simple. And your company cannot continue to innovate if the products aren't profitable. The second piece of advice we heard from Laurie was the need for higher and higher gross margins. I mean, that is the engine that funds all of your initiatives. This is why you care. So go partner with your CFO and calculate your true costs to build, market, sell, install, and support your products. And don't forget the back office. And do it correctly. And figure out how the alternatives are priced, because your price will be compared to that. I think you will be surprised at what you learn. If you want to make sure you get this right, consider having one of our experts help you with this, for it's not as easy as you might think. If you want one of our team members to come see you, go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-workshop. Enter your information and we'll send somebody out to see you. Laurie, thank you very much for allowing me to interview you this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay. I also want to thank you, our audience, for tuning in. Producing this show is not easy, but it is enjoyable because you are responding so well to it. So thank you for all the comments you send me via email and all the downloads that this show has received. Until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.